Okay, this is the January 16th meeting of the Flood and Erosion Control Board. It's about 7:05 now. This is our scheduled meeting for January. So I'm Don Lamberti, Vice Chair. And Dick, you want to?
I'm Dick Mahusky. I'm the Secretary.
Right. And
Charles Abercrombie, Board Member.
Okay. Is there anyone else on the line or on the phone?
Peter Wiswell, member.
Yeah, Peter.
Okay, so there's four of us here at the meeting.
And Becky is out of town, so she's absent. She's our chairwoman, so right. Mr. Lamberti will run tonight's meeting.
Okay. So the first item on the agenda is to hear, consider, and act upon minutes of the December 19th, 2023 special meeting. So are there any comments?
Mr. Chairman, this is Dick Mahusky. I have no comments, and I make a motion that the minutes be accepted as submitted.
This is the first. Any seconds? Or?
Second.
Okay, vote. Everyone say aye.
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 Anyone opposed?
I should abstain. I wasn't here.
Okay. Okay, fair enough. Okay.
So 3 ayes, 1 abstention.
Yeah. Okay, that's the item number 2. Update on evolving plans for Penfield Pavilion and neighborhood flood mitigation measures.
Well, so this is Dick Mahusky. Becky and I had a meeting in, I don't even know now, late December. We had a meeting in late December, and it was with Eli Gazal from the engineering department, First Selectman Bill Gerber, Devin Santa from Race Coastal Engineering, and Becky and myself attended that. And basically it reviewed Race's embryonic report on the Penfield site and what the flood potential was and what reducing the level of the sand would, how that would influence flooding to the neighborhood beyond. And if you want to see the status of Penfield, if you look at the January 3rd Board of Selectmen meeting video, that kind of tells the whole story as to where we are now. My opinion is that after starting off negatively toward the whole project, Mr. Gerber seems to have come around to where he's not as negative toward the whole project. And I believe we did get some traction going on the coastal resiliency at that site report, which Race is preparing. So there were a couple informational slides that you'd see in that meeting if you watch it, the January 3rd meeting.
Yeah.
So we're moving along. We're waiting for Race to finish that report.
Do they have a time frame to finish it?
No.
No.
Like most of these things, probably in February.
Okay, next. Fair enough. Okay. So they have what, $100,000 grant to work on that? Or contract?
Yeah. The purchase orders for something like $98,000. I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, okay.
I'd have to look at it.
So we do expect some kind of review. One of these.
Yes.
Okay. Very good.
And again, they're looking at the realistic still water levels plus the potential wave heights of a 10 and 25-year storm, 10, 25, and 50-year storm. They're not focusing only on the 100-year storm because it's more likely that we'll get a lesser potential or a lesser probability storm before we get the 1% probability storm.
Right.
So
now they talked on that question.
Yes, we are recording.
Sorry, I didn't hear it.
Yeah.
So
they talked about somehow. Bill Gerber talked about after everything is all done, then they're going to try and put more sand back and build up the thing again. That's one of the. How do you do that?
Potentials. Well, you build up an artificial dune, if you will, between the pavilion and the water. So my interpretation of that, in order to clear the notice of violation, we committed to having an 8-foot sand elevation beneath the pavilion. And if we go out 75 feet toward the water from the edge of the pavilion, and at that point we have a dune that rises to an 11-foot elevation, 3 feet higher than what's under the pavilion, that would satisfy the NOV, but it would also give us back the protection that we had prior to this rebuild, the protection that we had at the pavilion. Now that protection will be closer to the shore.
I thought they were opposed to building any kind of a...
Remains to be seen. It's beach nourishment. What they objected to back a few years ago, we had a proposal to put a sand-filled tube underneath the sand between the pavilion and the water. That sand-filled tube was judged to be a flood and erosion control structure.
Right.
If you just put the sand there without any physical thing to hold the sand together, then it's not an obstruction, it's just natural sand. So that still all needs to be teased out with deep.
Okay, fair enough.
Deep and I guess Army Corps, because it would be nourishment.
Take a question.
Yes.
How long is that dune contemplated to run?
Well, the whole beachfront there is something like 600 feet. The pavilion, round numbers. The pavilion structure itself is 300 feet wide, and the whole Penfield beach is 600 feet wide, thereabouts. So that dune would go the whole 600 feet.
All right. So then the question.
But recognize that outside of the pavilion, outside that 350 foot of pavilion, there's 150 feet on each side that's already at an elevation of 11. Right. So we're just the big thing is that from the pavilion to the water, we're looking at creating a trough to satisfy FEMA's requirement.
Right.
And that trough then is lower, and it would funnel the Long Island Sound water into the neighborhood beyond. So the resiliency question is, how do we minimize or prevent that surge of Long Island Sound storm surge from coming into the neighborhood beyond?
Right, that I get, but what I'm leading into is if the dune is extended for the length of Penfield Beach, what are you doing to protect the neighbors who are flanking the now ceased dune?
I'm not smart enough to know that, but it seems to me personally, Long Island Sound is a pretty big body of water. And when that storm surge and wave action is coming ashore at Penfield, whether a little bit is redirected from side to side from any kind of dune that might be there, there's a lot more that's coming straight on to the shoreline from Long Island Sound.
That's been an issue with the neighbors of concern about being exposed to flooding because they're not protected by a dune where another section is protected.
Yes.
I assume that's something Race is evaluating? We don't know. Okay.
The properties are private properties. See, I mean that's the thing. The town's dealing with what it knows. The rest is private property. So.
Right, but those are the people who are going to object.
Okay, well, we'll see what the objections are and just take it, all we can do is take it one step at a time.
Dealt with the two houses that are, when they were under construction, that are, as you face them.
Yes, we have dealt with those two houses.
Left, and they wanted to put dunes in front of their property. But there was an uproar about it because.
Well, I wouldn't say an uproar. There were a limited number of neighbors that objected to that. The two property owners were not objecting to that.
No,
they were both in favor, and it was. And I'm going from memory now, but they have a frontal dune in front of their properties that's already at 10 feet. The proposal was that they would increase the height of that natural dune to 14 feet. Because 14 feet is the high point of the existing dune at Rickards Beach. So that would give us a 14-foot line of protection from Rickards Beach all the way to the eastern side of the property next to the Fairfield Beach Club. And then the Fairfield Beach Club property, that's another property that does flood. It has, I think, its high point is like 9.5 feet or something like that.
One of the lower points in the area.
Yes.
Yes. So, any other questions or comments? Okay, does that take care of number 2? Now, did you cover number 3 also, Dick? Here talked about the first selectmen.
Yeah, they're kind of the same.
Yeah. So, okay, so that takes care of items 2 and 3 then, I guess, unless there are any questions. Okay. Item number 4, update on status of active projects. Dick?
I think we either he sent it to all or we sent around Bill Hurley's comments on the status. We have this continuing email which lists the projects, and Bill responds to it. So Bill has been out ill for like a week, like 2 weeks, a week and a half.
Wow.
So he's been out of pocket. So I will just go through this briefly, and this has not been tested.
Okay.
I wanted to talk with Bill and just flesh out his responses, but like I said, he's been ill. ARPA, the Rooster River plan. He's still looking. One of the things is the town wants to go in and clean out the lower portion of the riverbed, to take out the shopping carts and the branches and the leaves and the junk that have accumulated there, either being thrown by the neighbors or just coming down the stream. But in order to do that, the town needs easements because the individual property owners own to the middle of the river. So he said he's gotten about 8 easements, but he receives more. Still less than half of the easements that they need to have on hand.
Wow.
And we're getting the permit. We're getting the permits from DEEP. I think we're still waiting on a permit from the Army Corps of Engineers to really start on the Rooster River project.
Do any neighbors actually object to doing anything?
I don't believe so, not to my knowledge.
Okay.
So. Geez, that's nothing. Fairfield Beach Club, we need to get a dialogue going with Fairfield Beach Club because that's the next one of the obvious low points along Fairfield Beach Road.
Right.
And Bill's comment, Race has begun design of Penfield Pavilion and gave presentation to Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance. Penfield Pavilion Resilience Study, Race has begun design of Penfield Pavilion and gave presentation to BOS-BOF. Okay, so number 6, ARPA. We have this high-intensity wave study that's been on the ARPA list of projects that are funded. And this is now morphing into where the current administration is looking at FECB master plan. What we asked was that we repurpose some of that money or find new money in next year's budget to fund a revised master plan for the whole town. The previous master plan from 2015 only looked at the shoreline. This time we're thinking of doing the shoreline plus the Rooster River floodway and the Mill River floodway and all their tributaries, because that's, especially when we get these heavy rains now that occur, we see inland flooding more and more. So that has support from the administration to do that,
so that's good.
to earmark that money for it.
And what kind of money?
And we have a request for proposal draft that Becky Bunnell did, that is now with conservation, engineering, and planning and zoning, because we want to have. We're trying to schedule it for next week, a review meeting of that RFP so that we get input or buy-in or both from engineering and conservation as well as ourselves. And
What
then
kind of
that
money?
will,
What kind of money are you talking about?
we're looking at a $150,000 budget
Okay.
for that.
Okay.
So we'll have a meeting on that, and hopefully we'll get that RFP over to purchasing so they can put it in the appropriate format and go out for bids on that. Because one of the things we want to do is look at the potential future projects and input that to the hazard mitigation plan that MetroCog does, and that's done in like July. So we want to have a preliminary idea of what we might add to that hazardous mitigation list. Then ARPA also has a downtown infrastructure component, and that's not going anywhere because that got really too expensive. So that's probably not going to happen. There may be some little green infrastructure improvements, but not significant. Tide gates. We've been waiting on this tide gate report, and Bill's comment is Race has submitted draft tide gate report, which we are reviewing. 6 sites have contaminants of concern, 2 with historical PCBs. Getting oil management report from Weston and Sampson. Cisco to remove soil. Costs to be determined. Everywhere we look nowadays, we find PCB. They're historical PCBs. It's not something that's really happened recently, but if you look hard enough, you're going to find them. On this tide gate report, because we have a couple of self-regulating tide gate replacements and one just simple flap gate replacement on the ARPA project list, but they have not gone out to bid yet, pending this report, to make sure that we're prioritizing them correctly. So that's critical to get that done. That was also confirmed critical to get that done. This past Saturday, there was a high tide, and it flooded Fairfield Beach Road out on the peninsula.
Right.
And the reported observations were that all of the water flooding Fairfield Beach Road came up through the storm catch basins because the outfall pipes flapper valves didn't hold.
Right.
So,
now who's responsible for checking on these gates? Who's responsible to make the report?
Department of Public Works, Conservation, take your pick.
Okay.
They have joint responsibilities. Public Works is responsible for all the non-self-regulating tide gates. Conservation has responsibility for the self-regulating tide gates. Okay. So between them, they have that responsibility. I know I was talking to Tim Bishop before one of the storms there, and they had already gone and locked down the self-regulating tide gates. What they do is on a previously low tide before a high tide is expected, they close the self-regulating tide gates to make that empty space in the marsh so that the rainwater has a place to accumulate and not just back up inland.
Right.
Engineered Beaches is still hanging around waiting for Penfield's notice of violation to be resolved.
Do we have to? We're supposed to check that every year. Are we doing that? Still checking it, or anything being done on it?
No, they have a baseline, but they haven't done any active restoration of that baseline.
Gotcha. Okay.
Southport Harbor, an opportunity to use some of the good sand. Southport Harbor, they have the plan where the Army Corps of Engineers is going to dredge Southport Harbor, and Bill's comment is that the project is delayed until late fall 2024 by Army Corps of Engineers. They have trouble with their equipment availability.
Okay.
Or they have a backlog, I guess. Pine Creek dredging. Race has completed the bathymetric survey of Pine Creek and is now comparing 2014 conditions versus 2023. After review of material, Bill met with Alec Monk, the creeker, with the Pine Creek Residents Association.
Right.
The Pine Creek Residents Association engineer, and they're still in Pine Creek Residents Association. They're still deciding on the whole approach or limited approach. Deep wants to know where the sand is going, maybe southern Fairfield County. Oh, I think I just disconnected this. So that's about it for the project list.
Okay. Are there any questions? Okay. That's it for the project. Update stat active projects. Item number 4, it's done. Okay. Item number 5, discuss new 2024 Master Flood Mitigation and Resilience Plan.
Yeah, so Becky sent that draft around to all of us, and I don't know if anybody has any questions. We can talk about it a little bit. Otherwise, that's just awaiting our meeting with engineering and conservation, hopefully sometime next week.
Right.
And we'll get their comments and do a final version of the RFP. So I don't know if anybody has any questions or what.
I'd just like to comment. That was an incredible amount of work to do that.
Yeah.
She did an excellent job on that.
Good job.
Yeah, I give her a lot of credit for that. Okay. Any comments on that? Dick, any questions?
Peter,
Or Pete?
any comments?
Nope, none here.
Okay, then. That's it for item number 5. Item number 6, to hear, consider, and act upon any other business which shall properly come before the board. Any questions, items, comments?
We've been talking about our comments on the plan of conservation and development. I just sent off those comments today to plan and zoning. And we also have been talking about our name. What is our name? We wanted to get the name changed and additional members approved during the proposed charter revision, but the charter revision failed. We have had requests out since September through 2 administrations now to the town attorneys. I sent another request to Phil Pierce, who is our present town attorney. I sent that today, so we'll see what he comes back with. Back in, July, Tracy Flett attended our meeting because she was concerned about erosion on her property, which is along First Tavern Creek on Valley Road. There's another matter that has come before the Inland Wetlands Commission, that is 477 Stratfield Road. And this property, it backs up to Rooster River, and it's right where the town has a property on Woodside Circle. And there's a Woodside Circle property that has done some illegal filling, and the Conservation Department has been fighting legally with them for years and years, and that's still not resolved. But this is in that same area where the illegal fill caused the river to make a turn, and the outboard edge of that turn is what is eroding away the bank on 477. So part of 477 was a vacant lot. They're building a house on it. Part of that is that they want to armor the bank there. So that's underway, and that also is Twin Brooks Lane over on the Mill River. So there's 3 properties that we have awareness of where bank erosion is occurring. So that's just by way of saying that we need to pay attention to the riverine areas in our town also.
Is that legitimate to actually armor her property like that?
Yeah.
She can do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, you have to do it properly and so forth and so on. The application package did not have the detail of that armoring that's being proposed. I'm waiting to receive that detail from Tim Bishop. So I should get that this week. And they're having a site walk there this coming Sunday at 8 o'clock on the 21st, just so that the members of the Inland Wetlands Commission can eyeball that property.
Okay, is that it?
Our lobbyist, Mr. Rick Grauer, took Mr. Gerber on a tour of the shoreline areas yesterday, on Monday. And apparently it was well received by Mr. Gerber. He saw things that maybe he hadn't seen before. They also wound up at the pump station out on Fairfield Beach Road. The WPCA personnel were doing some maintenance work there, so they stopped in at the pump station.
Okay.
And Mr. Gerber said, "Hi, I'm Bill Gerber, First Selectman." So they got a little impromptu tour of that pump station. Okay. That's all. That's the only other stuff I have.
Okay. That's it. If there are no more comments, I guess we call it end.
Chuck, do you have anything?
No, I'm good.
Okay, that's it.
Peter?
Okay.
Don, just a question.
Yeah.
Becky asked that I put together a short narrative relative to the e-concrete idea being attached to the ends of the groins. Is there something more for me to do on that now?
Do you have anything positive to say about it, or anything? Does it look like it's promising, like the possibilities?
Oh, very much so. I thought I provided everybody with a copy of the narrative that I did for Becky, and the question from my side, I guess, is should I reach out further with some engineering firms, contractors, to come up with something more specific, including relative to pricing? It's
I guess we can't commit to any kind of pricing to spending any money, but if you can get some ideas, they have pictures of similar projects they've done elsewhere. Do you have anything like that?
Yes. Okay, I'll do that. I think I could get some sort of very rough estimate on cost and perhaps some promotional material to support the proposal that it be done. But
if someone has done something similar to that, I'd like to know about it.
Okay, I'll do it.
Yeah. And any other questions, comments? No. Hey, Dick, we appreciate very much if you could get some information on that. Sounds like it might have possibilities. So, Dick,
I think it's a very good idea, and the selling point is that these concrete modules are custom designed such that they're deep friendly, meaning if we want to have oysters, they'll design them so that they're oyster friendly, mussels, different types of fish, whatever we like, and they've been used successfully around New York to some degree.
But if we just hang up it.
Sounds good. Sounds very good. So sounds promising.
Okay.
I'd like to hear more about it.
Yep, I'll take care of it.
Be good.
And we do have a member of the public here with us, a rare event. So, Cesar, do you have any comments or thoughts or questions?
No.
Okay, well, thank you for coming. Appreciate your interest.
Thank you very much. Okay, if not, any vote to end the meeting?
Okay, we'll end the meeting, and I'll figure out how to disconnect the recording somehow or other.
Well, if you hang it up, it'll disconnect
Okay.
everything.
So the meeting is adjourned until next month.
We have to vote on it, I guess?
No.
No, okay, that's it. The meeting is adjourned. Was it 7:35? That's it. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Take care, all.
Bye, Peter.
Bye.